Okay, good evening, everyone. We're gonna begin this meeting now. Just hope that everybody can be on mute, or I'll mute you in case you forgot. I'm not only hosting the meeting, but letting everyone in, so bear with me on that. Good evening. My name is Sharice Vickers. I am the Executive Director to the City of Newburgh Industrial Development Agency, the agency in connection with the project, which is the subject of this public hearing. As you can see, we are recording, so we're all set. Today, I'm holding this public hearing to allow citizens to make a statement for the record relating to the involvement of the agency with a project, the proposed project for the benefit of the Foundry Phase 3 LP, a New York limited partnership, the company. This meeting has been noticed and is being held virtually on the Zoom meeting platform due to the declared state disaster emergency and Governor Cuomo's executive orders. Participants have been advised how to enter this public hearing by Zoom, either by voice or video call. The proposed project consists of the following. A, the acquisition of an interest in an approximately 76,841 square foot parcel of real property located at 43-45 Edward Street, Newburgh, New York, the land. 2, the construction, rehabilitation, and improvement on the land of improvements consisting of 59 residential units to be rented as multifamily apartments, the facility. And 3, the acquisition and installation therein and thereon of related fixtures, machinery, equipment, and other tangible personal property, collectively the equipment, the land, the facility, and the equipment hereinafter collectively referred to as the project facility, and other directly and indirectly related activities. B, the granting of certain financial assistance within the meaning of Section 85414 of the Act with respect to the foregoing, including potential exemptions from certain sales and use taxes, real property taxes, real estate transfer taxes, and mortgage recording taxes, collectively the financial assistance. And C, the lease with an obligation to purchase or sale of the project facility to the company or such other person as may be designated by the company and agreed upon by the agency. I intend to provide general information on the agency's general authority and public purpose to provide assistance to this proposed project. I will then open the comment period to receive comments from all present who wish to comment on either the proposed project or the financial assistance contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. Legal authorization and powers of the agency. City of Newburgh Industrial Development Agency, the agency, is authorized and empowered by the provisions of Chapter 1030 of the 1969 Laws of New York, constituting Title I of Article 18A of the General Municipal Law, Chapter 24 of the Consolidated Laws of New York, as amended, the Enabling Act, and Chapter 577 of the 1982 Laws of New York, as amended, constituting Section 913 of said General Municipal Law, said chapter, and the Enabling Act being hereinafter collectively referred to as the Act. Public purpose of this hearing. Pursuant to Section 859A2 of the Act, prior to the agency providing any financial assistance as defined in the Act of more than $100,000 to any project, the agency, among other things, must hold a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the Act with respect to said project. Since the proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to the proposed project may exceed $100,000, then prior to providing any financial assistance as defined in the Act of more than $100,000 to the proposed project, the agency must hold a public hearing on the nature and location of the project facility and the proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to the proposed project. The executive director of the agency caused notice of this public hearing to be A, mailed on February 25th, 2021 to the chief executive offices of Orange County, the City of Newburgh, and the City of Newburgh School District, and B, published on March 2nd, 2021 in the Times Herald Record, a newspaper of general circulation available to the residents of the City of Newburgh, Orange County, New York. In addition, the Executive Director of the agency caused notice of this public hearing to be hand-delivered to the Mayor's office in the City of Newburgh on February 25th, 2021, and posted on February 25th, 2021 on the agency's website and also on a public bulletin board located at City Hall, 83 Broadway, Newburgh, New York. Now, unless there's any objection, I'm going to suggest waiving the full reading of the notice of this public hearing and instead request that the full text of the notice of this public hearing be inserted into the record of this public hearing as Schedule A. Very good. The comments received today at this public hearing will be presented to the members of the agency at or prior to the meeting at which the members of the agency will consider whether to approve the undertaking of the proposed project by the agency and the granting of the agency of any financial assistance in excess of $100,000 with respect to the proposed project. Written comments. The notice of this public hearing indicated that written comments could be addressed to Cherise Vickers, Executive Director of the agency. No written comments have been received. Remarks by the company. I will now open this meeting up to the Foundry Phase 3 to present their project.
Thank you, Cher. Appreciate the intro and you kicking us off. I see some familiar faces and some folks that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, but I'm glad to see that there's some turnout for this from the community and from folks who are interested in Newburgh and invested in what happens here. I think it's really important. So that's great. Thank you again to the IDA for setting this up on reasonable short notice, and just making this happen in a timely fashion. It's great. So happy to share a presentation on the Foundry and touch on some of the aspects that we've outlined in our proposal to the IDA. Cher, would now be the time to do that?
Yeah, if you can share screen, I've enabled it, so it should work fine. Yep.
Great. Okay, so for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Jake Khai. I work with a couple other folks on this call, Mike Engels and Eric Edelman and Richard Mintzberg, and a few of our partners who weren't able to make it, but I'm one of the partners developing the Foundry. I live in Newburgh, New York, just on Grand Street, and look forward to sharing more about what we've got envisioned here. As we all know, this is a unique and drastically important project, and one that myself and the team are really excited to build out in support of the city and as part of what we do for a living as developers. So this is what we plan to take you through today. History, can't really talk about Newburgh real estate without a little bit of history, vision of what we're envisioning as far as design elements of this project, the opportunity, and some of the aspects, quantitative and qualitative, on what this means for the city, and touch on the relief that we've asked for from the IDA, and then we've got some time for Q&A if people have questions. So Austin or Cher, just let me know how much time we have, because I want to make sure I stay within a window here.
I think around 15 minutes would be good.
Great. I will make sure to do that. Thank you. So kicking it off with some history. This project was built in the 1800s, and I think we could have shared a lot more going back that far, but we'll spare you a century or so and start in the 1980s, just so set the ground and give some folks some context for what this project has been through. And development started in the early 80s, and phase 1 actually launched in 1988, and there was a number of different tumultuous activities around the development, the start and stop nature of the project before phase 2 was delivered in 2003. And for the last 20 years or so, just about 20 years, phase three has been in again a start and stop nature of development, where the previous developer purchased it in 2006, and for about 14 years worked on completing this project unsuccessfully, and unfortunately declared bankruptcy in 2018. At which time our group became aware of a opportunity in a bankruptcy auction to purchase the property, and we did so at the end of 2020. Or, we won the auction at the end of 2020, and we're in the process of working towards a closing. But, the main thing I want to point out here is that this project has been attempted and reattempted by multiple developers over the last 40 years, so far unsuccessfully. And we're committed and confident that we will be the final piece of the Foundry history before we can release the units to a bunch of people who deserve to live there. Great. So I'm sure as many of you know from driving past, this is what the Foundry looks like today, at least phase three. You can kind of see phase two in the background that's completed, but phase three is this boarded up section in disrepair that you see here. Beautiful building, certainly underutilized and deserving of recreation and revitalization to restore the historical elements and bring it back to an amazing place for people to live. This is a shared courtyard between phase one, phase two, and phase three of the Foundry. And, it certainly can be an aspect that people should be enjoying this space. They should be enjoying the building as somewhere to live, the courtyard is somewhere to play and be outside. So showing what it is today. It's beautiful, and I think one that we want to put great care into developing. So the vision, I'll have to say that we're at the early stages of the design process. We have not solidified any design elements specifically, but we want to give you a flavor for what we think good looks like and some of the projects we've worked on in the past and how we're thinking about design. So this project is adaptive reuse at its best. You have a building that was previously used to manufacture boxcars and railway cars in the 1800s, and it served its purpose then. It was used for manufacturing. And now the highest and best use and the ultimate purpose of the building should be residential housing, similar to phase one and phase two. And we have an opportunity to reuse the building rather than demolish and destroy it and build something new. That would be a shame. And so this is a beautiful adaptive reuse project. The history here is special and deserves to be treated with great care and respect. And I think that ties in directly to the design of the project and how we're thinking about that. We want to accentuate the historic elements of the project, bring those back to life and maintain those, particularly around the exterior of the building, which, it's beautiful and it just needs some work, but it's certainly a beautiful building. And when it comes to the interior and the common spaces, start to weave in a sense of modern design and more, comforts and that would be representative of a project that was built today. So I wanted to share a couple examples of similar projects that our team has worked on in the past. This one's not too far away in Kingston. You can clearly see some of the similarities between how this project looked before development to the Foundry. This is how it looked after, maintaining integrity of the historic elements and then bringing some modern touches, but at the end of the day, revitalizing it to a new use and full potential. This was residential housing. Here's another project in Clifton, New Jersey, similar mill type structure that again was in disrepair and was revitalized to a beautiful residential project. So these are some of the experiences that our team has in development, but also gives you an indication of what we think good looks like for design projects like this. So what's the opportunity? I mean, completing the Foundry would be a massive benefit to the entire city of Newburgh. This would create housing for 105 new residents, big population boost for the city, folks who can come here and build their lives here, like a lot of us are on this call. And we ran some numbers on what kind of economic impact that can have on the local economy and found that we would be bringing in about 8.5 million of consumption from 105 new residents. And so that's part of our submission to the IDA, some of the backup for those numbers. But at the end of the day, this is a massive project in Newburgh. There's not any other projects that are of this scale, of the adaptive reuse variety, that could bring this much new consumption and new residents. And, you know, I think that there's qualitative and quantitative aspects of this. And you know, these are some of the quantitative ones. The qualitative ones being, you know, just, you know, revitalizing a building to its full potential. And we could talk more about those, but it's worth mentioning that the marginal propensity to consume in these economic numbers came from Beckman, a third-party consultant that we hired, who specializes in calculating this information. Given the location of the property, the Foundry right next to the Liberty Street corridor and adjacent to George Washington HQ, you know, this would be a great expansion of the momentum that we're already seeing on Liberty Street. And as part of this, you know, we certainly believe that development can extend beyond Liberty, but that's where a lot of development's happening right now. And there's some great businesses there that would really benefit from 59 new residents around the corner to shop and consume and participate as members of the community. We're thinking beyond just the Foundry project, and wanted to mention that we also purchased the building across the street, 24-42 Jones Street, as part of a revitalization corridor across, you know, adjacent to the Foundry. And so that was an investment that we already made. We closed on that at the end of 2020, and we see synergy between revitalizing both what we're calling the Shaw building, because of the historic use of that property. It was used as the Shaw hardware store in the 1800s, with the Foundry, and figuring out the right synergy between those two properties. So we have a real opportunity here to make a big impact adjacent to the Liberty Street corridor. Some more thoughts on economic development. Like I mentioned, we're going to be building 59 additional rental units. And as part of the development of this project, I see some of our neighbors in from phase 1 and phase 2, but as part of the development of this project, we'll be helping facilitate the restoring the common elements and some of the disrepair in phase 1 and phase 2 of the Foundry. As proceeds from our acquisition will go to the HOA that has expressed an interest in using some of the proceeds to repair common elements of phase 1 and phase 2. So the scope of this is beyond just phase 3. Us being able to complete this project will help with the rest of the entire complex. So I mentioned the increased consumption that helps local businesses. It expands to the entire community of Newburgh. We're talking about a large number of new residents in one shot, and there's not a lot of properties or opportunities to do that. And again, you know, successfully completing this project further signals Newburgh's revitalization. The city has been undergoing a renaissance over the last 5-10 years. There's been starts and stops over the last number of decades. It's our understanding of different momentum towards, you know, renaissance and development and economic development. And this is one of the biggest pieces in the city to complete. And so this would really signal and further catalyze more development and or really, you know, catalyze that renaissance in a way that's in line with the city's values. So how does the city benefit financially? This would provide an additional $1.2 million in city tax revenue over the 15-year period that the pilot would run for. Tax revenue is vital to supporting city services, and we all know how challenging that's been for the city of Newburgh. So another $1.2 million over the 15-year period of time that we're projecting here is well and above the $100,000 that the city would otherwise have obtained from the property. And we show a breakdown of that on the next slide. But beyond that, it permanently increases the tax basis, and this property would be generating around $300,000 in annual tax revenue for the city in perpetuity. Like I said, since the 1800s, or at least for the last 40 years, tax revenue from this property has been negligible, and we're talking about something that can continue forever, and to benefit the city financially. And part of that is also, this would be a big development project taking place over a couple years that would create 76 direct jobs and 135 indirect jobs during the development period. This place is one of a kind. I think if you look around in Newburgh, there's a lot of great assets and a lot of great projects, but this one is certainly, because of its location and its scale and the architectural and historic value, this one is one of a kind. There are a few, if perhaps no other opportunities to add this much additional local housing stock, particularly without displacing one single person. We're talking about completely new housing stock from a building that has been abandoned to date. The location is significant, bordering on Liberty Street with views of the Hudson River, and next to George Washington headquarters. It's in some ways, in many ways, the heart of the city, and the city deserves to have a completed and great project at that location. And it signals, the encouraging revitalization. We've talked about that. Going from a boarded up eyesore to a flagship property would be a big benefit and advancement for the whole city. So a little bit about us and our team. We're local. I live in Newburgh and I'm building my family there, and that's something I'm really excited about. I kind of shared this with the IDA last time. I haven't been there for as many generations or as many years as some of the folks on this call have, but I love Newburgh, and I'm excited to be building my life and my family here, and I'm committed to doing that. We're engaged. Our team is engaged and focused on how much we can contribute to a city rather than how much we benefit or take away. That's a core part of our philosophy. And we've got assembled the right team of professionals, a group of folks who have completed projects like this in the past and have the expertise to get this done and not fall into some of the same pitfalls the previous developers have in the past. So that's a little bit about us, and you can see some of the companies we've worked with in the past. This project is going to take a significant investment of time and energy from our team, and along with a significant financial investment. And in order to, we're prepared to do that. We're here, we're ready, and we're prepared to invest the time and energy needed to take this through over the next number of years, committing our lives to that, because that's really what it's going to take. And at the same time, there's great financial risk to taking on a project like this. We would need to be investing millions and millions of dollars to make that happen. And with a total project cost of about $21 million, there's no way that this project can happen without support from the IDA and without partnership from the IDA. And so that's our request. And I'll get specific on what we're asking for on the next slide. But bottom line is we're committed to doing this project, and we're ready to make the necessary investments on our end, but we need financial support to make it feasible. The numbers don't work as it stands right now. So what we are requesting is sales tax exemption, mortgage recording tax exemption, and a pilot request. We understand how important tax dollars are to the city of Newburgh, and we don't make this request lightly. It is, we were very thoughtful to ask the absolute bare minimum of required support to make this project feasible. And that's what you see in front of us. $550,000 over 15 years is about $37,000 a year for a $21 million project. So we really, we're thoughtful in making the most modest request we could. I'm noticing, Cher, I'm at 15 minutes, so I'll wrap up. But here's a quick comparison of what the project would generate in terms of tax revenue without completion over 15 years. This is what the project currently generates. This is what the payment structure is that we're proposing with our pilot. And you can see that what we're proposing is not to pay no taxes. We're proposing to pay taxes. We think that's important. We want to contribute to that. I've said that a bunch of times, but I think it's critical. And what we're proposing would generate a net tax benefit to the city of about $1.2 million over 15 years. It's money the city needs. And then at the end of the project, at the end of those 15 years, we're generating close to $300,000 a year in perpetuity for the city. There's limited burden for the city to facilitate development of this project and limited additional cost. All the infrastructure is in place, the parking's there, no incremental waste management requirements. So I think it's important to note that. And what we're thinking as far as a project timeline is, we submitted our application in February. Today's the special meeting. We plan to start construction in the spring or summer of 2022. We've got to go through permits and planning process, and that takes time and design. And then we would plan to deliver in close to the end of 2023. So in summary, this is a incredible, unique opportunity for the city of Newburgh. We've all seen this project kind of change hands, be in disrepair, and a burden on the city for decades, if not a century plus. And we're here, we're prepared to change that. We need support. And we look forward to getting this done with the city of Newburgh and all showing up in 2023 to celebrate the opening of a beautiful building together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you. I'm just trying to change the view in the screen. Okay. I will now open this public hearing up for comment at 6:30 p.m. As you know, due to the state of emergency declared by the city mayor, this public hearing is being held via virtual communication. It will also be posted to the agency's YouTube account. Accordingly, by way of operating rules, when I ask if there is a public comment, I will recognize one person at a time. I will first request comments from any elected or public officials which may want to speak. I will then open the line to the remainder of the public. If you wish to make a public comment, I will ask you to please be patient. Please wait to be recognized. Once recognized, also state your name and address for the record. When everyone has had the opportunity to speak, I will conclude this public hearing. A record of this public hearing will be prepared and reviewed by members of the agency in connection with the agency's consideration of the proposed project. Again, the purpose of this public hearing is to solicit public comment. We are not here to answer questions. However, we will, during this public hearing, consider questions if we have the information to answer the questions and there is sufficient time to consider such questions. I will now ask if there is anyone in attendance who wishes to comment on either the nature and location of the project facility or the proposed financial assistance being contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed projects. We're trying to keep it within those two topics. For the record, please state your name and indicate your comments on either the proposed project or the financial assistance being contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. And also, please keep in mind that your comments should be, I would say, within 5 minutes per attendee. Are there any public officials in attendance that wish to comment first?
Yeah, Bill?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Fioravanti. I'm the Economic Development Director for Orange County. I also happen to be a resident of Montgomery Street here in Newburgh. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I will keep this brief. Newburgh is experiencing tremendous momentum. We all know that. Obviously we're very attractive. I'm a part of the Economic Development Committee here in the city, and it's exciting the things that are happening. But despite that momentum, there are still properties in any city, and especially here in Newburgh, that still suffer from, let's say, inertia. You know, real estate people like to talk about hairs. You know, some properties having a few hairs, some properties have a whole head of hair. And I think the Foundry Phase 3 can, you know, depending on how you look at it, can fall in that category. But despite that, some projects really can truly transform challenged properties like this. And but in order to do so, those projects really take the right combination of circumstances. They take the right group with the right vision, the drive to make it work. I think we see that with these gentlemen. It takes the right plan, and that includes the right capital mix and other things. And it also requires the right support. People love to debate IDA incentives, and I'd love to engage in that. Certainly happy to do that. But really pivotal projects like this one just don't happen without incentives. The math just doesn't work. And the bottom line to me is we want to see a project like this happen. The potential benefits for the city and our residents are substantial. You saw them outline them there. They'd add much needed quality housing stock to the city here, and the economic impact of the influx of those residents will be a really nice bump for the local economy. There's no question about that. You saw the tax revenue projection, the comparison with what we're getting now, and you just can't debate that. And you know, then there's the concept of filling in broken teeth in our neighborhoods here and in our East End. And the Foundry Phase 3 represents a pretty important row of teeth, frankly. So for these reasons and more, we want to see this project happen. And I just don't think this project happens without your support. So really encourage you to support the project and provide these incentives. Thanks for the opportunity again to speak.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, public officials in attendance, or?
Sure, this is Allie Church.
Yep, sure, Allie.
Hi, I'm Allie Church. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Newburgh. While the city defers analysis of the pilot analysis and the other tax abatements that are proposed to the board, we certainly support the project on whole. As Bill Fioravanti mentioned, it is absolutely a critical project for the city. It's a perfect time for this project to move forward, and new development of housing, especially in our downtown core, is a priority of us at all income levels and at all types. And so we're really happy to work with this team and to help the project any way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public officials in attendance? If not, then I'll open it to the general public. All right, we have Naomi.
Hi, sorry for the background noise. I just want to thank the IDA for shepherding this project in. It's very exciting. I just want to share my endorsement for this project. I think the development team is qualified and has great expertise as demonstrated by their past projects. I think they're very brave knowing the history and very thoughtful with their design. And I think the financial chart that they showed makes it a no-brainer to support this effort. I also just want to comment that this property is pivotal in connecting the downtown to the waterfront, and obviously patroning the local businesses. And this is what Newburgh needs. And this is, as Ali mentioned, the right time considering the Colden development and many others. And I think this will be inspirational and set a really good standard. So I give my full support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have comments from anyone else?
My suit on.
Just have to use the raise hand feature, hopefully, if you know how to use it. But do you have a comment, Keith, or is that just by accident?
I do not.
Okay.
Sue Sullivan, I see. She's raising.
I clearly don't know how to use the raise hand.
For the raise hand feature, and I'm looking for people literally raising their hands.
Okay, well, that was me.
There you go.
Thank you, Austin. My name's Sue Sullivan. I live on Montgomery Street. I've been here 3 years, but really worked for the last almost 20 years on economic development initiatives in the city of Newburgh and across the region. I think it's really important for people to understand that the purpose of the IDA is to assist projects that could not be done or completed without those incentives to come to realization. The city of Newburgh loses nothing in terms of tax revenue by supporting this plan. What I don't think most people understand is the project will continue to pay and titrate up those assessments over time. So the city of Newburgh doesn't lose anything. What's at jeopardy is we have this building that is in bankruptcy and in best case scenario could generate, $100,000 over 15 years. As compared to this project that over 15 years would generate $1.3 million. So that's net $1.2 million to the city of Newburgh bottom line. And I hear over and over that that is a priority. I've gotten to know Jake as a neighbor over the last pandemic time, socially distanced. And I'm also very well aware of the lace mill in Kingston, which is an amazingly successful project. So I would encourage the IDA board to wholeheartedly support this effort with the knowledge that we know the IDA is heavily regulated and audited so that we as citizens can be confident that those dollars are protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. We have Dawn Berry.
Oops, okay, I think okay, sorry, I think I'll just do this without the video. Hi, Dawn LeBerry, and I'm actually at the Foundry. I'm a resident here. I actually have 2 places here in the Foundry. And, obviously we all have a vested interest in seeing the Foundry develop and also for economic development to come to Newburgh. I guess my question, however, at least one question, is just one of clarification. It was my understanding that the IDA focuses on commercial real estate and not residential. So I'm just trying to understand exactly where this proposal fits into that process.
I'm happy to answer that if you want. So the IDA statute does empower us to do certain housing projects. It's the position of our IDA board to focus primarily on commercial projects, but for projects that are really like flagship and notably impactful, we are empowered to deal with those as well, even if they don't have a direct commercial space, for example. The presentation did have a ridiculous amount of commercial impacts that the project would have, even though it was residential space. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks. So, no, that does help to clarify it. So this is then a discussion that would happen between IDA and the city in terms of the actual pilot and tax issues.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments on, or that was? Okay.
Yeah, just one other question. If we do think of other questions, will we then be able to submit those?
Without a doubt.
Okay,
You
thank
can
you.
submit public comment at any time or call our office with any questions.
Sure, thank you, because, just seeing the presentation now, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Of course. We have Gina Worth.
Hi, my name is Gina Worth. I'm a part-time resident of Newburgh and property owner on 263 Liberty Street. I had a question and then I think a comment for the team. I was curious, I might have missed it, but what is the, is it expected to be rentals or condos for the remainder of the units that you'd be developing?
Sure. Is that something I can answer?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So the project is zoned and mapped as condos. And so that's not going to change, but our business plan is to build them and then rent them out. Part of, just to share a little bit of color, part of the, part of the way this project comes together is using historic tax credits, which actually require that the project is held with the same ownership group for a period of 5 years. So in doing so, we would have to rent them for at least 5 years. And we haven't really contemplated exactly what we would do after that period of time.
Thank you. I guess I just want to make the brief comment that I feel like it was an excellent presentation and there is very clear historical significance to this building, and I think quite clear economic development benefit towards kind of continuing this work and continuing to advance housing development within the downtown core. I also wanted to echo Naomi's point about the site being an incredibly important link between the activity and energy of Liberty Street and the greater waterfront, which I see as one of Newburgh's most amazing landscape assets, and the connections between the downtown core and the waterfront leave much to be desired. I think the request that's being made by the development team is quite modest and seems to pay off by a strong multiplication factor. And I just want to express support for this project. I would add also that since the development team is asking for additional public benefit or subsidy beyond the use of historic tax credits and other kind of noted programs, that maybe they might think about comparably modest improvements that could have community benefits that could be added on to the project. One might be interpretive signage along the William Street corridor that could interpret the history of the building and help further activate that connection to the water. But in general, I think very much in support of this work and hope this passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Do you have any other comments? If you can't figure out how to use the hand feature, you can also try to unmute yourself. Okay. Then we will begin with closure of the meeting. After requesting if there were any further comments, I close this public hearing at 6:43 p.m. Thank you for attending.